All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Ask Us Anything, the broker agnostic program where we bring great producers, big names in the industry in, and they open up their playbook and they share for you. This is your time. Remember that you get to ask us questions, any questions you want, and we'll do our best to answer them. But as we're getting rolling with questions, I want to introduce Grant Johnson, a longtime real estate agent here in the Twin Cities, friend of mine. We've done deals together, known each other for a long time. Great guy. I think you're going to take away some value today. But Grant, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself for those that don't know you?
Yeah, I've been in the Twin Cities real estate market since 1993. Currently have a team of 31 agents that works for us. And actually most of my career, for the first 15 years, I had two clients. I did land development and new construction.
That's how I met you, actually, was
It is.
one of the townhome developments you were doing.
And you and I did my best deal ever.
Oh my, that was my dumbest deal ever. I always tell that story where multiple offer situation. You guys had the new construction deal. We were competing for it. You guys were competing for it. We were competing for it. My client did not want to go up any higher. And I said, I think you got to go just a little higher. He refused. Well, you guys won.
Yep.
And he comes back to me the next day. My client comes back and says, the wife really wants a house. Whoever won that offer, do whatever it takes. How much it's going to take to buy it from them? So basically, Grant comes back and says, well, for $70,000 higher than we bought it for, we'll take it.
And they did it.
Our guy wrote the check. And I said, that's what you get for being cheap.
It was a really good time, actually.
Yeah, that was
The builder loved it. I loved it.
I still tease that guy every once in a while when I see him.
I think he still lives there.
He does. He's still working on, this was years ago. He's still working on finishing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that house very well.
Yep. That was the dumbest real estate deal I think I've ever been into. But Grant, tell us a little bit about, 31 agents. You've been in production quite a long time, 15 years you said of new construction. Now you're running the team. Tell me a little bit about what your team does. Like what's their unique value or differential?
From the agent standpoint, obviously we have full-time staff. We have, like everybody, right? The transaction coordinators, the marketing. We have two full-time trainers, one full-time, we call it attraction rather than recruiting. Because people don't like the term recruiting so much anymore.
Yeah.
And then of course we have, all the tools that every team out there has. We're a Zillow Flex team, which helps. We do a lot of Op City.
Yeah.
So I find a lot of people join teams for support. One, support is huge.
Yeah.
And don't fool yourself. A lot of them come for leads.
They do. It's opportunity a lot. Yeah. And I kind of classify too, there's different people that thrive on teams. A lot of times you'll see brand new agents do really well in teams. They haven't learned a lot of the bad habits. They have to unlearn, you're
correct,
able to train them right from day one. But also I kind of like the broken wing agents too, that have been around a little bit longer. They understand how to do a deal. They're just not great at self-promotion. They're hard workers. And if you can get them in front of the deals, they'll do them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We have a lot of those. We have people ranging from brand new to one agent with 40 years experience on that team.
Yep.
Now, the 40-year experience is different. They're coming because they're starting to scale back, slow down.
Yeah.
And they want to mentor a new agent and pass their business to them.
Right. I should actually finish my thought on broken wing. What I mean by that is, someone that's kept limping along, kept alive, but not really thriving. It's like they think about, should I quit or should I keep doing this? And they're on the fence. They join a team and now they're revived. So I see a lot of that.
And all of a sudden they got business. We had one that just joined us a week ago. Yesterday sold a house for 1.2.
Nice, love that.
So
and I think another thing too. We didn't talk about this with the value of being on a team, but I think accountability is also a huge deal, right? Just so many of us, and me included at times, that you just kind of rely on being motivated to really take action, and you don't always feel motivated. You got to become habitual, and you got to become consistent. You got to basically have it into a discipline. It helps a lot when you have a team that helps keep you on path. In
the weekly accountability meetings with everybody, you sign up and you can either take the advice or not. It's up to you, right? You're never gonna force somebody or get somebody to do something they don't want to do.
Correct.
So you just help them go down the path that they want to go to.
But I think it's it's just kind of human nature that when somebody says to another human being, I'm going to do this, and they make a public statement, they feel more compelled
100%
to do it, right?
Yeah.
And what they start to do, I think, is build those habits where it's not just based on when they feel like doing something, but it becomes, like I said, consistent, habitual, weird not to do it.
It's a schedule.
It is. Yep.
Nobody really likes to follow a schedule.
It really is. So tell me a little bit about, the way that the market's gone in the last year, what your team's done to adjust to it, what shifts you guys have made, what's working, what's not.
Funny thing is we're growing rather than going down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as agents, So we merged with a couple other teams, which has helped us.
Yep.
But realistically, for us, it's going to the direct connections is what's made a difference for our agents.
Sure.
We found most of our agents and I think most people in general don't like the consistent follow-up.
Right.
It's not their strength.
Right. Yep.
So if we can get a direct connection coming to them one way or another, it's a lot easier for most people to be successful.
I'm thinking actually of some conversations you and I had years ago about this. We were just getting into, bringing on ISAs, really taking a lot of the heavy lifting away. And I think at the time you were still doing pond. And not that there's a place for ponds and things of that nature, even with the ISAs, there is. But I kind of figured that based on the conversation then, you would go that route eventually where you do some of that heavy lifting, and it looks like that's worked for you guys.
It's worked. It's a lot better.
Yeah.
I found every agent, their production gets better. For us, everything is just growing.
Yeah.
And they seem to really enjoy that. I don't know, you've done this a long time too.
Mm-hmm.
How many people like to come in the office every morning at 8 a.m. and then just pick up the phone and just start pounding and dialing?
And the people that do it, it's sort of the eat the frog approach, right? Like they come in, they get it out of the way, they don't like it, and they're going to get some results by doing it, but their heart's not usually in it. They're not passionate about it. And it makes me wonder if you put them in front of tasks that they would be passionate about, how much better would they really do, right? So there is that weird animal that's just a hunter. They're
oh sure,
just thrilled by the chase, and they love getting on the phone and pounding it. Most of us are closer to farmers, I think, where we rather build the relationships and have the human connection piece of it.
That's what I think a lot of people get into the business for that.
Correct.
Correct. I like the connection with people. I like houses, things like that.
Yeah.
I don't think in my 25 plus years doing this, I've ever interviewed an agent that wanted to join a team or join us that said, hey, I like to sit and dial the phone all day
long. And you think of those, boiler room, Wall Street stock guys that just love that. I mean, that's not the personality.
The Wolf of Wall Street.
Right. Yeah. You don't see the Wolf of St. Paul.
No, you don't.
It's not really the personality. I sometimes think that real estate's much more service and sales. There's a sales component to it, of course, but a lot of times it feels more like service and sales, where people want to service, want to do service for others. And I also think that when you really break down where our highest and best use of time is, where do we actually make money in real estate? Is it lead generation, lead conversion? Some people are going to say yes, but I would argue I think you really make your money where the rubber meets the road, being in front of high intent buyers and sellers, like being in front of them. If you can line that up back to back to back to back all day long, sure, that's likely going to be per hour your highest and best use of time,
all day.
And of course you got to do a lot of activity, up front. Your leading indicators are going to say all the phone calls and conversations and marketing you do that's going to put you there. But if you have a system that will do a lot of heavy lifting for you, you can spend more time in front of the high intent buyer and seller.
It's being in front of the people all day.
Yep, that's what it is.
And truthfully, when I started a long time ago, I did 4 open houses every weekend.
Correct.
And that's how I was in front of people, right?
Because you were doing the new construction, right?
Yep. So it was Saturday, Sunday, and then sometimes we do existing. It mixed in there once in a while, right?
And I'm glad you brought up open houses, because I'm still seeing people shy away from open houses today in a low opportunity market where there's less. I should say there really is less opportunity. There's lower inventory than there was, a couple years ago. Obviously, affordability is, an issue. The average first-time home buyer went from 24, 25 to 36 years old. I mean, it's getting harder for people to get into the market. Lower opportunity than it was, right? So I look at that, and I also look at one stat that always sticks out in my mind. It's about 10 weeks is the median number of weeks now it's taking for a buyer to buy a house when they're in that transactional phase. But they spend the first 3 weeks without an agent. That's a stat that seems to never change.
What are they doing during that time?
Exactly.
They're online
and they're at open houses.
All day long.
All day long. So I look at agents that don't like opens or don't really have luck there. I'm like, you just got to tweak a few things, And they also, again, consistency. I'm a big believer in consistency. If whatever you're doing, if you're not consistent, it's not going to pay off. Like you have to have a consistent flow to it. And if you are doing, I make this challenge to anybody. If you did 52, one open per week, 52 opens a year, and you're averaging even, call it 10 people per open, that's over 500, that's 520 contacts per year of transactional buyers. They're not stopping there because they like houses. Let's face it, the majority of them are there because they're in that transactional phase. They're looking at specific property when they're not before they're transactional. in that research phase, it ain't about specific property. They're researching things, mortgage rates,
What can I
I
find in the
afford,
neighborhood I want to be?
what school district do I like,
Yeah.
right? That's what their focus is. When they want to see XYZ Main Street, they're getting more transactions, right? And they spend their first few weeks without an agent. I promise you, any of you guys, you spend every week, once a week in an open house, you're going to sell houses.
And what's going on right now? Parade of Homes.
Parade of Homes, yeah.
So Sunday,
Yep.
we had over 60 groups through a parade mile.
Yep.
So,
yep.
and now some of those, sure, they're just people looking because it's the Parade of Homes, you know.
Correct.
What color paint's popular, what cabinets.
Right.
But out of those 60, we actually found one or two that actually want to do something right now.
That's all you need, one or two. You can't service 15 people at a time anyway. You just
No.
need one or two. You
And
know,
most people, if you're doing an open house, a lot of times, depending on your price range, a lot of them have a home to sell too.
they do, and you know, amazingly, the way I look at it, amazingly, people are always looking for that, you know, golden seller lead. But you look at it, it's like most people start the process as a buyer. Most of the time, they're not thinking about how they sell their home first. They're looking at what's motivating me to buy.
Sure.
That's where we usually pick them up as a lead.
They're looking at pictures online. They're trying to find
Correct.
what excites them, right?
Correct.
And I would always argue nowadays, your first showing is that online showing.
Correct. It is. Yeah.
You know?
And we talked about before we started here, we were talking about Matterport technology, and that's one thing. Not to go too off on a tangent, but what I love about technology like that is, by the time someone actually comes into your listing, it's like they've seen it already. It's like a second showing. You know,
It is a second showing.
Second showing.
It's 100% second showing nowadays.
Speaking of questions and ask us
Yep.
anything, looks like we finally got one here. All right, if you could go back to the start of your career, would you do anything differently?
Oh, probably
everything. Yeah, probably everything.
I failed forward more than anybody I know.
Mhm.
You know, I did things so different at the beginning, where you really start with a developer and a builder. If I would have done it differently, probably I would have mixed that in with other things. I would have got it more into meeting people in the existing home market. For some reason, I was just like, oh, this new construction's where it's at. This is what I need to do. Right. Which, by the way, worked out great for me.
Until it didn't.
Correct.
Right.
Which I remember those years.
Yep.
Very well. But I think I would have been more involved in a lot of other stuff. And the other thing I said to my agents about a week ago, one thing I did wrong at the beginning of my career is I didn't go to conferences.
Right.
And I learned that from you and Law.
We do a lot of those.
I know. And it's one thing I wish I would have done more of.
Mhm.
And so in October, I'm at 2. In November, I'm at 1. And so I'm doing more and more of them.
Which one are you doing in October?
EXPCon, of course.
Yep.
And then RiseCon.
Got it. Yep. So they're trying to talk me into doing Follow Up Boss.
Yeah.
That looks like a good one this year. But I'll tell you, I had kind of a similar answer to you, going back to the beginning of my career. What got me stuck in 2008 when the market really crashed, I had no diversity in how I was doing business. I was doing really good business, you know, 40-ish deals a year as a solo agent in my, you know, late 20s. But I didn't have anything to fall back on. I had one way of doing business. And when I got compromised, I just learned it all over. So my advice to anybody is try to find 2 or 3 different sources of business. I don't mean lead sources like, if you're doing online leads, Zillow and Realtor.com, that's the same. It's the same thing. I'm talking about.
That's one source.
Yes, you know, diversify your pillars of where you get your business from. Try to make them complement each other. Like if you're really good with your SOI and you're a relational person, probably aren't going to be really great at knocking on doors and doing expires. That might not be your cup of tea. Maybe it is, but try to find 2 or 3 things that are going to complement each other. That's authentic and genuine that you like. And, you know, instead of going super wide where you're doing 9 different things, go 2 or 3. Instead of going wide, go deep.
Yeah, we go 3 to 5.
Yeah, exactly.
3 to 5.
But I'm sure you probably do one, and then you kind of get it built out before you move to the next.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people are trying to build it all at once.
I screwed that up many times too, right?
Right.
I mean, tried built it many different ways.
Squirrels, you know, you're getting distracted.
I might have ADD.
Right.
You know.
Right. So, you know, you build the systems kind of deep on it. You get things that are, you know, on kind of autopilot. You just run maintenance on it and it's producing.
But then a lot of that comes down to having the right support.
It does.
Because I think you're a lot like me that way. Is I don't see you sitting down necessarily and always building the system yourself. The idea is there.
I conceptualize it.
Yes.
Yeah, but I need someone to put it together.
And I'm the same way. Right?
Yeah.
I can't. I probably have 500 ideas in my head.
Right.
And I'll just mention them, and I think I drive people crazy because it's like, oh, another idea.
Right.
You know, it doesn't mean do it. It's just what I'm thinking right now.
Right. But I think, you know, the idea is, can you prioritize? You know, I'm personally always in build out mode, and I would do that. You know, what would I do different in my career? I'd probably be in build out mode all the time, constantly curious, constantly experimenting,
learning and growing
all the time. You're just constantly curious and constantly a student, never the master, right?
Yeah.
And but prioritize where your focus is going to be. You can only focus on so many things at once.
Yep.
It's great to have a project board with all your ideas, but pick a couple at a time and get those done, built out, then move on to the next. And I think that's hard for people.
I just see them so I don't forget them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Otherwise I'll forget it. I'll be on to the next one.
I use a system called Trello. I use Trello too. So all of my stuff goes into Trello. Basecamp's another one, very project manager, but get them all out of your head and manage the project.
That are post-it notes everywhere.
That is so, you just dated yourself.
I am old.
Yeah.
So
I know I'm still guilty of that too. The written notes. I don't use post-it notes. I use the like school, what do you call them? Notebooks. All right. So here's the other one. Are there any daily routines, rituals that you live by, daily habits? What do you got?
I get up at the same time every morning.
I think that's important. Yeah,
we
can talk about that.
5 a.m. every morning.
Mm-hmm.
After I get up, I walk the dog every morning.
Mm-hmm.
Then I come back in and cook breakfast, I'm weird. I eat the same breakfast every morning.
Right.
I'm out the door at about 6:30, 7 at the latest.
Mm-hmm.
I go to the gym.
Yep.
Most mornings, not every.
Yep.
I'm like everybody and I sometimes don't.
Right.
And I'm usually at the office most mornings by 8 or 8:30. I'm an office person.
Yeah.
That's
a ritual in itself.
Yep. I work best in an office. I am not the person that works great from home.
Right.
I don't even want to bring my laptop home sometimes.
I hear you there.
So
yep. And I agree. I think when you hear people talk about rituals, routines, habits, a lot of time, and habits can be kind of different than routines, if you ask me. But starting with routines, I think a morning routine is one of the most powerful things you can do. And what you mentioned is, again, consistency. It's about getting yourself into a habit, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to build results on anything if you're inconsistent.
And I know a lot of people don't like the mornings.
No, who does?
And I force myself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially now, it is dark in the morning.
Correct. Yep.
And I'm outside walking.
And it's so comfortable in bed, and you're like,
oh yeah,
I really want to get up. It's dark and cold.
It's not what I want to do.
No,
but I also know for me to be successful,
yep,
this is what it takes. Yeah, I have a family to support. I got a daughter in college I'm paying for. I got all these things I have to do still. I'm not ready to be done.
I look at my routines as a barometer of how well I'm doing, like it's as a leading indicator, because I know if I fall off of my routines, not tomorrow, but not a week from now, but a month from now, 2 months, 3 months from now, it's going to show up in less pleasant ways, right? So it's a barometer. When I start falling off it, I'm going, okay, I need to pull myself back together and get back on this. My morning routines personally consist a lot of kind of self-development. So if I'm going to do any reading, any meditating, and when I say meditating, I'm just talking about just deep breathing, meditating. I'm a firm believer in that kind of stuff. Just getting yourself kind of ready for the day, getting your blood moving, working out. Reading anything that's self-development. I love self-development in the morning, because what it does, it gets me in this mood by the time I actually sit down at the desk. And I like to start my day every single day at the same time, and start with the same activities. There's usually a bunch of phone calls I'm returning the first activity, but I have those phone calls lined up the night before. Like I know who I'm calling, before I even go to bed that night. The more you build out these consistent routines and the more you implement them, the more the results are. So if I'm getting ahead an hour, 2 hours a day over my competition, if I'm up at 5 o'clock doing this and I'm not working till 8, I'm 3 hours ahead of the competition by the time they get started.
Yeah.
Well, 3 hours a day, 15 hours a week, do that math by 10 years. You see, that's why the consistency.
If I'm at the office at 7:30,
yeah,
there's one agent, a good friend of mine.
Right.
He's there every morning at the same time.
Right.
Most people don't get there till 8:30 or 9.
Right.
So I get more done in that hour than sometimes the rest of the day.
Correct. That's what's so important. That focus time is so important, because we think about, classifying what we do in a couple different ways, working on your business, working in your business, and for me, working on your business is all the systems that actually help you run the business. It's pipeline building, it's, CRM management, it's relationship management, marketing management. Working in your business is going to be servicing your clients and, stuff, the immediate day-to-day stuff you got to do that, it has to get done. But working on your business is always taking a back seat to working in your business when you have clients. That's the struggle.
And the real money comes working on your business.
Correct. Yeah, the short-term money comes working with that client. I got a closing I can have right now. Transactional. Yep. So I'm looking at it like, if I got to continue to build that pipeline and get the system to make it more efficient. That way, even if I'm not paying as much attention to it, it's still working in the background. Efficiency. And I think that's where we lose focus in real estate is we start getting going, working on our business. We get a client or two, all the focus shifts there. Disciplining yourself that you can split it. I work half the day on, half the day in.
Following a schedule.
It is. And we learn to do it in high school. That's the funny thing about it.
Yeah,
If you think about it, you show up for your first hour in high school, call it math class. You're not pulling out your science book. And if you do, you're going to get in trouble. You're not sleeping or, you have to do the math. And if you looked at it and they told you at the beginning of the year, they give you a book that thick and they say, you're going to learn all of Algebra 2 in this next 9 months.
It's going to take me 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, right. So, but then they tell you the next hour, you're going to learn all of English and all of history. And you go, I'm learning this much in 9 months. Well, how is that? It's because you've separated it piece by piece, day by day into bite sizes with a plan.
Yeah.
That's the plan. And you follow it, right? We learn those skills in high school. We get into real estate and we go full ridiculous, silly on it. We forget it all.
Yeah. And this business allows so much freedom.
It does.
And I think freedom's probably the biggest issue for most agents, really.
Right.
Someone would be a lot better if they're an employee.
I think it is because again, the accountability, right? Because it's the motivator of stick and carrot. So most people are more motivated by the avoidance of pain, I believe, than the pursuit of pleasure.
Yeah.
So
100%.
when you're trying to avoid the stick, get hit with the stick, you got a boss that's threatening to fire you or demote you or whatever, you're going to probably perform. When you don't have that threat, then you're not motivated.
I think more people are scared to succeed than they are to fail.
I do think so too. And I think it's that success suicide concept, right? They start to succeed and they implode.
And we all do it. I've done it. I'm sure you have.
I still probably do it every 3 months or so. I mean, there's the
Let's start over,
so
right?
yeah, you have to. And quite frankly, you think about it, right? You got that need to feel like comfortable and stable. I think that's where it comes from. Like you start pushing the comfort zone and you want to fall back to that. And sometimes that means taking a step back and, failing a bit, and you're trying to push yourself backwards, not forwards, to stay in your comfort zone.
You have to fail.
You do, but fail forward.
Always.
All right, we got a couple of questions popping in. Why do you prefer Trello? So that one, I like Trello. I mean, so Basecamp's a great system too. I like Trello just because it's super easy to use, manage projects, building checklists, task lists. It integrates with calendars, reminders, so it's easy and it's very inexpensive. That's the other thing I like about it. Okay, so how do you manage a large team?
I don't.
So
Other people are doing it.
Mhm.
It wouldn't be a large team if I was still running it.
Right.
I know for a fact, I know my strengths and my weaknesses.
Yeah.
2 years ago, we were a team of 6.
Right.
Now we're a team of 30. It has nothing to do with me. Not one thing.
But you put the proper people in place.
I've been blessed to have the right people come to me.
Yep.
And I cannot take hardly any credit for it. And I think it's surrounding yourself with the right people, right?
And recognizing who the right people are. That in itself, sometimes people struggle. They put the wrong people in place, and they're trying to rely on assessments and ways to figure out, is this person going to work or not. I think if you develop that instinct too, and you learn to work with people, you can recognize talent, put talent in the right place, and get out of the talent's way. Support it.
And that's the hardest thing.
It is.
Getting out of the way is the hardest thing. So I don't really manage our team much. I'm there. I answer a lot of questions. I try to cast the vision, which I think some of that is coming from other people now too, which I love.
Yep.
My real job on the team is just trying to find business now.
Right.
And then, getting to talk to people like you and things like this, which is a lot more fun than going to show a house tomorrow.
Right.
So,
right. But I think when it comes to management, there's management, there's management and leadership, two different things, right? So a lot of us are more inclined to be in a leadership position than a management position.
Yeah. Management doesn't work.
You're right. And I mean, even if you're going to have people, call it middle managers, if you want to even call it that, operations managers, just people you put in place.
But aren't they partners really?
They really kind of are, so I like to come from a leadership perspective, and the things that need to be managed are more tasks than people.
Yeah.
More systems than people. And I like to put the right people in place to manage those systems,
It's how it works. I mean, I know you don't want me building a system for anything.
Right.
And I am not a manager in any way. I mean, I'm probably the most laid back team leader there is around. I believe people are going to succeed or fail on their own. All you can do is help guide them to where they want to go.
Yep.
And I have agents on my team that come to me and say, I want to sell 6 homes a year, and some that I want to sell 50 or more. How do you guide them there? Right. That's how you run a team. But again, I don't do the accountability part anymore. Somebody else does, and they're better at it.
But I think recognizing, what your team is going to be, right? So it's hard to, unless you kind of have a vision of where you want to go and what you want it to be. And let's say you say, I want my team to have a certain niche or two, and I want my team to be a certain size with a certain volume. Then you can start reverse engineering it once you understand what it's going to be. Then you figure out where do you fit, in that, which piece is really important for you. Which pieces do you need to fill with other talents or other people or other systems?
Yeah.
The way I look at it, you can leverage a few different things. We're leveraging people, leveraging technology, leveraging systems, and leveraging money. Those are about the 4 things you can really leverage and figure out where each of those goes. So a lot of times it's more conceptualizing and building of something than necessarily managing it. I know we went really long-winded on that one,
but that's okay.
Yeah.
So
okay, so we got a comment that we're doing pretty good. I think she said you guys suck. No, she said pretty good. She said we're doing okay.
Yeah, it depends on the day.
Right.
So,
all right, any other questions? Let's go with some questions. You got us on time for some questions. Let's see what time. What's our time here?
I don't even know.
All right, we got probably another 15 minutes. So, as we're waiting for the next question, let's give some advice to the agents out there right now that are struggling a little bit, because there is. And I looked at our roster. They are, yes. I looked at our roster. We're sitting 750, 775, total agents. About 30% of our roster has grown in the last 12 months, or this year, I should say, in number of transactions. So that 70% has went the other way. So let's talk about, what's really the differential? Why is 30% of the people growing, 70% not? And I think everybody's a little different. Some brokers or teams are 15% growth and 85, decline. So what really is it? What's causing the differential?
The market shifted. We all know that, right? It's changed.
Yep.
I hate the term shifted because it implies some other things.
Yeah.
I think it changed.
Yeah.
I really think people got pretty comfortable with it being easy.
Yeah.
And the market, for years, how easy was it?
So easy. And then we complained because I got to drive a buyer around and write a few offers. I'm like, do you have any idea? That's a blessing.
Yeah.
Like, wait till it goes the other way. Can't find a buyer,
And we've been there. Both of us have been there. I think really what's happened is it became too easy for a lot of people and they forgot how to really work. And they forgot, like we talked about, follow the schedule.
Yep.
Have a routine.
Yep.
Get back to the basics.
Yep.
If I was a brand new agent today, I would be in open houses all day long, like you talked about.
Yep, all day.
I'm not the guy that's gonna pick up the phone, like I said.
Right.
But let me go do open houses. Let me meet some people. Follow a top producer around. If you're struggling, call somebody that you think isn't. See what they're doing different.
What I love too is, with 1.6 whatever million real estate agents now practicing in the US and how many people before them, this is not like a new frontier of an industry where this hasn't been done before. There's nothing new under the sun. It's being done. There's people succeeding at all levels, and it's never been easier to find information of what's working. You want to figure out how to convert a lead. There's 75 million hours of
go on Facebook.
Exactly. Google it. You're gonna YouTube. So the information is so easy to find. But information and action are 2 different things.
Yes. And that's the difference, is the action.
Correct.
Have you found a top producer that won't share?
Honestly, no. It's maybe, like, let's put a percentage on it, less than 1%.
Yep. So if you want to grow, call somebody. They'll talk to you.
They'll open it up.
Yeah. They'll tell you whatever you want to know. There's no secrets.
But what I see too, because we do a lot of internal coaching with our agents, and what you'll find is you'll lay it out chapter and verse. It's exactly to follow this to the T, but they won't. There's always something in its mindset. It's always a mindset thing that prevents them. Whether it's they feel stupid, they don't feel confident, they don't want to be rejected. There's a million things that go on.
Where's the fear of success?
What is it?
Fear of success.
Yeah,
that's what it really is.
Yep.
What's going to happen if I make this goal? What's going to happen? What's going to go wrong with my life? What's going to change?
And I think too, a lot of people with that same concept, it's like, because where they're at and they're comfortable and they know, it's like the devil, I know what my problems are. I know what I got. If I all of a sudden become successful and I get used to that, what happens if it gets taken away? It's like the thought of that's devastating.
Oh yeah,
scary. And I think a lot of people do what we call time traveling, where they're, either living in the past or the future, and they're catastrophizing the future, and they're already afraid of what hasn't happened. They're living in the past and traumatized about what happened in the past and assuming it's always going to work out that way.
Correct.
So you have people time traveling and never really being present. And you can't really, in my opinion, you can't really look at how you're going to build your business and get to the next level when you're afraid of the future and haunted by the past. You know, I mean, it's difficult to do that, you know. But like I said, the information on how to succeed is there. And even in a market, I see nothing but opportunity in markets like this.
Yeah.
Because, and I'll tell you why I see opportunities, because the market's more complex. The buyers and sellers have voiced up. They want a more sophisticated agent than they did 2 years ago. They want, there's tougher needs. If you stand up to rise and meet those needs, the business practically does fall on your lap.
It is there to be had.
It is. And it's easy to separate yourself from everybody else that's not doing it. If you just take the challenge,
service
do it.
right now.
It is heavy service, heavy service.
Yes.
You know, and I mean, it's a low percentage of buyers and sellers that actually feel like their agent has expansive services to actually help them. I mean, it's a small amount. So every time I look at those polls, and I'm like, so only 15% of people actually feel like their agent had expansive services to help them. You know,
you need them now.
They do.
Last year, the year before, you didn't necessarily.
Correct. You know, but I mean, what are the biggest challenges people are having today? I mean, obviously, inventory is a big challenge. There's ways to solve that. Affordability, there's some ways to solve that. You know, should I buy first, sell first? I mean, I got a home to sell, but what if I sell it and I haven't found a house I like? There's ways to solve that. I mean, my house is in condition that's not going to sell well, and I don't have the cash. There's ways to solve that.
All that stuff. Never used to be.
Yeah, so that's my point. Is when we had a challenge before, we didn't have the technology, the services, the third-party institutional help that we have today. Agents shy away from it. They're afraid. They don't like
all the cash buyers out there.
Right.
You can do so many different things.
So many things, right? So for me, looking at that, if you know, if you really want to succeed, you have to be willing to act. And if you're not willing to act, it doesn't matter what you're going to learn. You know, just showing up to learn just so you feel better, isn't going to help you. You have to be willing to act.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. How do each of you see the fallout from all the lawsuits that like, that's a great
good question.
Yeah, because right now it's just there's
two settlements
right now. And I love that question. Love that question.
Is it going to change that much? Because on your listing contract right now, it states the seller's going to pay this much and they're paying this much to the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
What's going to change? Who knows for sure? I can't predict the future, but I see that we'll go in there and say, I charge this much to list your home on the seller side, plus whatever you'd like to pay a buyer's agent, which could be as low as $0 if you want, right?
Right now, so if you look at, so the lawsuits we're talking about are the antitrust lawsuits, a couple that are out there that are aimed primarily at NAR and a few of the larger franchisers. So
correct.
Anywhere, the dumbest rebrand I think I've ever heard ever. I mean, Realty, there was a name people understood and knew.
I didn't even know who it was when I saw this.
I know. I remember like when I saw it, I'm like, that sounds familiar. Who's that again? I looked it up. I'm like, oh yeah, they rebranded. But you know, so Realty / Anywhere. We're talking Coldwell Banker, ERA, Sotheby's, Century 21, all wrapped under that umbrella of companies. I think Home Service America was named in that. Remax definitely was. Keller was. And what it is, it's NAR's rule is what they're kind of pointing at, saying that NAR demands that they have with MLSs at least $1 that the seller has to pay for buyer's compensation. You can't put a 0, right? Which that's where they're saying there's force, like you're forcing a seller to pay somebody else's fees.
So that part will change for sure.
That'll change, yes. But if you look at some of the test markets, I believe it's Washington, if I remember right, was one of the bigger ones where they stripped that down already, and it's still like 98% of sellers offering buyer's compensation. Now, I think some of the, let's call it worst case and best case scenarios. In my opinion, the worst case scenario that could happen is all of a sudden we get a flush of sellers saying, no, we are not paying buyer's comp. Now buyers have to figure out how to do it. That's worst case and very unlikely, I think, you know.
And if they are, this will be closing costs.
Exactly. You're going to figure out a structure. Because guess what? The buyers are already paying it anyway.
Yes.
It all comes from the buyer side. All commissions do. You know, but how you structure it is what we're talking about. Likely, more likely, and this raises a lot of questions in my mind, is if the seller now has a choice of what they're going to pay, right? Because that's where they feel like they didn't have a choice. In fact, you know, Gary Keller, I believe, was named. I don't want to be naming names, and it's not a defamation thing. I'm not picking on Gary, but he was named in this suit, or at least pointed to, because in his books, you know, he was talking about things that look like steering. You know, like, you know, if you, and I haven't read the books, or at least I haven't for years. If you are a buyer's agent and you see a lower payout, keep your buyer away from there. And if you're a seller, understand someone's going to steer away from you with a low, like that in writing, that's his books, right? And they were using that.
Obviously, in my opinion, wrong.
Right. So, let's think about what this could all look like. Probably more likely. So let's say the sellers, are now given the option. It's very big and bold in disclosure. You don't have to pay anything. So they start talking to their agent and say, fine, I will go ahead and meet you halfway. I'll pay a 1.5. Now the buyer's agents are going to have to go back, and for the first time, instead of being negotiated through third party, now they got to negotiate themselves
and actually collect.
And that's something that they've, and this is something I've been harping on agents for 20 years on, is don't tell people your services are free.
No,
they're not.
No.
And you hear them, you don't pay me. The seller does. My services are free. Well, you don't pay me until you do. Quite frankly, because now if you get stiffed on a buyer's rep contract, or I've seen it where there's a 1% payout or something from an auction property. Now the buyer agent wants to go back and they're upset and they don't want to talk to their buyer and say, hey, by the way, I need you to close the gap here. They won't have that conversation.
It's a tough conversation.
And here's the other part of it is, what is a buyer going to be willing to pay a buyer's agent? Nobody knows this because we haven't tested, So some of these things may get fleshed out.
I think it'll come out very similar to what they're willing to pay for a listing.
Yep.
It's going to depend on your service.
Yep.
What are you going to do? How are you going to set yourself apart?
With those things, I can say, I'm going to bring in a professional stager and I'm going to come in and do X, Y, and Z home repairs and bring my crew in. Buyers, what are you going to do? I mean, there's still a lot you can do, but it's harder to articulate. Other than I'm going to work diligently to find the right house and win an offer. So what services beyond that are you going to develop as a buyer's agent?
And do buyers, let's be honest, they can find the homes themselves now.
They do
most of the time. Yeah.
Yep.
I saw this house. I'd like to go see it. Right.
Yep.
I think if you can find them houses, you are setting yourself apart. If you are calling them and saying, hey, this one's coming on the market, I know about it, it's not market thing, or I saw it, I'm coming soon, and you're proactively showing them a value. It's also knowledge of homes.
I think it is. So speaking of that, you just mentioned two of NAR's big stats that I caught my eye last year. So 56% of all the buyers, what they wanted most from the buyer's agent was help finding the right house, because obviously low inventory and the way they're searching, they don't always see houses the same way we do. For example, let's say I find a buyer that's looking up to 450. I look at one at 275 that's complete, needs a complete overhaul. They're not even looking at that. I explained to them, renovation financing. They never would have caught that, right? So they want an agent that will help find the right house. 56%, I want to say it's 52% or 52 or 54%. Said what they wanted was, or like the close second answer to that was, they wanted help pointing out, having an agent point out either defects or things that create value, things that they wouldn't have seen on their own. However they phrase that.
So knowledge of homes. Like
yes, that's what I'm saying. Yep. So, I wanted you to point out that this could be a defectual problem, or this could be a resale problem.
Or these are the original windows. You should probably know that.
Yes.
The other thing I think that most agents, we used to do this back in the past, preview listings.
Yep.
Know your market, know the inventory.
Right.
So when somebody comes to you and says, hey, did you see that house over on 3rd Street? You can say, yeah, I did. I walked through it. Here's what I saw about it, and
you can get really basic too on, especially working with first-time home buyers, credit repair, really solid credit repair services, down payment assistance services, finding options for things like multi-generational homes, because that's a big thing now. 14% of every home sold last year was multi-generational. So I think, a buyer really loading up their arrow, their quiver with the different arrows. We've got to get a little bit more sophisticated as buyer's agents to offer knowledge and services. I would say
that's what's going to change.
Yeah.
Know your market, know the inventory, and actually service your clients.
And I'd say solutions too. Find maybe some unique financing options, maybe some home repair options. A lot of people are buying homes that need some stuff. Maybe some consultations with interior designers and things of that nature. I mean, it's good to have those.
So again, it's who you know.
Exactly. Yep. What you know, who you know.
People.
Yep, you do. You need to have that ecosystem approach, I think, that affiliate approach.
Yeah.
So I think that's by and large where it's going to go. Back to my long-winded answer here, but I think that's kind of the stuff that will actually not be a defect to the buyer's agent. Actually push buyer's agents to be better.
They should.
That's my point.
That or they may go away.
They could. And
you want to be good.
Which could lead us back to where we were many years ago, probably right before you got started. when it used to everybody go right to the listing agent.
Correct.
You know, that could head right back to that situation again.
My first year, you only represented the seller, no matter who you were.
That's right, because buyer's rep was at 93, 94 here. Yeah.
So it was like my first year, we only represented the seller.
I started in 98, so the buyer's rep was still pretty fresh when I started.
It was a totally different thing you were doing.
Yep. So that could get more prevalent there too.
Well, if a buyer doesn't have the money to pay, and they don't have a way like they want to finance it in, you logically as a buyer, what are you going to do?
Go to the listing agent.
I'm going to call them directly
all day long.
So how do you show the buyer your value, the representation that really matters? I'll be honest, I don't think most buyers understand representation.
They really don't. I don't think we tell the story well enough.
We don't.
Which back to my point, you know, if I'm looking at this as a buyer's agent, what could be coming with these 2 settlements now, and I think the trial is going in October is when the actual trial starts on these class actions. But imagine, just think about this, you know, like you see these class action settlements happen, and then all these Coldwell Banker, ERA, Remax agents, you know, they're listening on commercials and ads saying, have you sold a home in the last 5 years with Remax or Coldwell Banker? And if so, you may be get compensation. I mean, that's not something that I think agents are going to want to have to explain to their people.
And I'm afraid they may have to.
You're going to have to. Yep. So I think this is a great time to really start talking about narrative, right? So if you don't really know how to tell a story, your value as a buyer's agent, social media is a great platform to do it. Like, tell your story, like what you do as a buyer's agent, what your services and value are. Work on that, because either you're going to tell the narrative or somebody else will.
Somebody has to.
Okay, let's see. What do we got for newer agents? How do we find clients in this market? Okay, great question. How do we find clients? How do we build that pipeline that we're talking about? Especially newer agents.
It depends on what you want, right? Are you looking? I mean, obviously, join a team. If you're brand new and you want leads and business, join a team.
Yep.
Number 2 is, truthfully, I'd be out doing a lot of open houses. I'd have no issue doing 3-4 open houses a week, because what else are you doing? And they don't have to be Saturday and Sunday.
No, and I think you can mix it up. You could really just kind of split test it to figure out what's going to work.
You'll meet people. The real people out there looking at homes will come in, and you'll have people that don't want to work with you. They're going to be a pain, but you'll meet on a good weekend. When I started, our goal was to find out of 4 open houses, 1 real client.
Right.
So we figured to find 4 a month. Of that, 2 might be able to do something.
That's for a newer agent. That's cool.
Yes, that's what I would do.
I really like, when it comes to opens, pattern interrupts too, because if you watch the way people behave in an open, they walk in the door, they run through the house. It's like, don't look at them, don't talk to them, no eye contact. You almost have to have a few ways to get them to stop and actually converse, right? And try to be different than everybody else. It's all the same questions. Well, hey, Grant, how many of you looked at today?
Yeah,
Only you looking at house. It's the same, insert this agent. Yeah, same thing, right? So try to figure out how to sound different, right? So for me, I love digital signing. I actually get people to stop, and then I can connect that to a CRM, an action plan, a follow-up, and start right from there. And by the way, keep this in mind, right now, agents are getting shady and weird. They're actually going in and stealing sign-in sheets from open houses because they're slow. They're going to go in and take pictures or steal it, and now they're calling those leads that should have been yours. So I like digital, so they can't do that. But give yourself a little kiosk, put your laptop up there, digital side. That's going to get them to stop once.
Yep, they'll look at it.
They'll look at it, right? And the other thing I like to do is have displays set up. I mean, with value. So, recent solds, market stats, and I've had literally display boards like a science project. I mean, I've done a lot of different things like this: digital, paper, print. But have something that's going to stop and get their attention that you can talk about. I love services that I can talk about, creative finance services, anything that I can get them
anything that's different.
Yeah, exactly.
In the old days, we'd bring a list of all the other homes available in the area, right?
Yep.
That's why I said, know your market.
Yep.
If I'm doing an open house in White Bear Lake on Sunday, you should know that Thursday I've toured every house that's on that market that's similar. I've already gone through them so I can talk intelligent. You got to set yourself apart.
You do.
And I really believe as we grow and the industry is going to change, it's going to be knowledge. The smart agents that are knowledgeable are going to survive. I
think knowledge, I'm going to add one thing, service, because people, so another thing, if I'm in there, I'm probably bringing information on companies like Curbio.
Yeah.
That you got a house to sell, they'll actually fund the repair of your home before you sell it, get you more equity, blah, blah, blah. So I want knowledge, I want services, and I want to be the quarterback of the project manager of that. And here's what I
And be able to communicate.
correct.
You gotta be able to actually
You
talk
have to
to
be
their
articulate. Yes, yes. You can't just throw a brochure at them and say good luck. You got to be able to.
Yeah, here's a flyer on the house. Good luck.
Right.
And let me know if you have a question.
Right.
You know.
So I think if you pull that off, you got the pattern interrupt. They're stopping. They're conversing with you. They're hearing things from you that they never heard before. And I'll tell you some of the easiest things I've ever converted. I talked to a couple people about knock home swap at a sign call, right?
Yeah.
So had a guy show up, didn't want to talk to me at all because he just wanted access to the house. As soon as I got him to open up about his house that he has to sell, and he was, working on it for the last 2 months. It's not ready yet. He's nights and weekends only, yada, yada, yada. I said, do you know about knock home swap program? No, I don't. What's that? After a minute and a half of talking to him, he's like, how do I sign up and can you do this for me?
And different cash offer programs, right?
Yep.
You come through an open house.
Yep.
A lot of people have the fear, I found this house now that I want,
Yep.
but I can't do contingent.
Right.
So
Right.
let's give you a cash offer right now.
Correct.
At least I can make you non-contingent if you're willing to take this cash offer.
Yep.
It doesn't mean you can't, there are cash offers out there where you can go on the market and still test it.
Now imagine, exactly. Now imagine, having that at an open house as a new agent, you're having all these things that nobody's talking about. Now you're starting to get some traction rather than sounding like everybody else and getting the same result.
You're doing something different.
Something different. And the other thing too, as a new agent, when I want to say, I always say this with new agents, if you want to find out how your network really views you, get a real estate license, because what happens, they give their business to everybody else and you get insulted, you're mad,
Yeah.
but remember, they knew you before you had a real estate. They saw your unprofessional behavior and showing up late for things and wearing the dumb looking, outfit when you should have been wearing the suit and tie. They knew the old you, and you get a license and they're not all of a sudden going to see you as like,
You need to change.
yeah, this is an opportunity that you have to rise to the challenge. Change the way you're seen in your own network, or even better, go get a new network that doesn't know your old stuff. But you have to really focus on building your network and not getting mad that your network's not supporting you.
You won't get them all from your
No, you
sphere.
won't. No, especially when you're new. There's going to be time that,
No.
and I, this is the fascinating to me. Once in a while you see an agent do that, they'll come in, 30 deals from their sphere day one.
Yep.
But the way that they're viewed, and they're a leader in their own network, and that's rare. If that's not you, don't beat yourself up. It's an opportunity to really focus on you. Build a new network, a more powerful one that doesn't view you any way other than how you want to be viewed. You can tell that story yourself, reinvent yourself. That's the beauty.
should, right?
Always should. Yeah.
And that's how you I'm still doing it
All day long.
every day, right?
Mhm.
I'm reinventing how we're doing things and what I'm doing.
Constantly curious.
If you'd see me on a normal day, I'm in shorts and a t-shirt.
Mhm.
I'm not dressed like this. So I reinvented myself this morning just to come talk to you.
No doubt.
Yeah,
Right.
so-
No doubt. But I think that's really the lesson for new agents. Don't get discouraged because you're seeing other people get the business. You're new. You haven't evolved yet. That's what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Evolve.
Learn.
Learn.
Find somebody that's willing to mentor you.
Yep. That's another thing too, is there's so many people that will mentor you. And keep in mind, the first couple of years is much more of an internship where you're just learning. And don't think about the next deal only. Like, it took so long to get this one deal, and can I continue to do this? Is this really going to pay off? The answer is yes, it's going to.
2 to 3 years.
Oh yeah, it's just that you got to get through that first couple of years. You have to learn, immerse yourself in it. You should be drowning in real estate.
It gets so much easier after 2 to 3 years.
It does. So we're about at time. Let's see if there's any more questions. I think that's it. We had a very low volume of questions this time. Usually we get a lot more questions.
Nobody likes us today.
I guess not. Or maybe I just talk too much this time.
No,
That can be it. But any final words or advice?
No, I just thank you for letting me be here.
Oh, of course. It's nice to catch up. It's been a while.
Yeah, I haven't seen you in a while.
It's been a while.
So,
all right. With that, I guess we'll wrap up, ladies and gentlemen. We'll catch you in the next one. Have a good day.